Disney employee with diaper fetish. This story is so weird that I almost pushed it out of my mind, but my friend reminded me of it last night, and I'm creeped out all over again. I was around 15 to 16 years old, and I was on vacation at Walt Disney World sometime during the summer. My family has the vacation club membership, so we go a few times a year and live close by anyways. We were staying in the vacation club villas, which is a separate building from the main hotel. I brought two of my friends, Savannah and Victoria, and we got bored around 2 a.m., so I went down to the gym. It opens for 24 hours. We weren't even gonna work out, just take mirror selfies and mess around with the exercise balls. There's a desk for the spa portion of the gym, or maybe it's a sauna, I don't really remember. But since it was so late, there was no other employees, so we were just messing around behind the desk and found a notebook. I'm not sure why. I was super annoying at the time, but I decided to write my Twitter and Instagram handles, and so did Savannah. Looking back, I'm pretty sure we could get in trouble since guests aren't supposed to screw around with a desk. I didn't think too much of it, and we left the gym. And the next morning, we checked out of the hotel. On the drive back home, I get a Twitter notification, and it's from a diaper fetish account. The creepy thing is, this account was active for a while, and had disgusting pictures of grown men in diapers and other disturbing pictures of children. So does Savannah. And we both sit there looking at each other like, what the fuck? The account tweeted us saying something like, I know who you are and what you've done, and your vacation will end abruptly. They tweeted some more creepy stuff, like telling us to watch our backs, but I knew it was clearly because we left our names on the notepad. I didn't reply back. Then I noticed a new follower, and it was my name, but the username was similar to the diaper account. The account started tweeting my address, phone number, and random pictures of me from the deep in my social media. They do the same thing with Savannah's name, and at this point we're both shitting bricks. I get a text from a random number. I'm assuming they used a texting app, saying they were watching us and knew more than we thought. They even started texting about my boyfriend at the time, and asked me really fucked up questions about him. I told him to fuck off and blocked it. I didn't get any more texts. But the Twitter account continued to tweet me mostly random details that I know, which I have to dig deep to find out. I blocked them on that too, and put on all accounts on private. I never got any more messages, but the Twitter accounts are still up to this day, so to the Disney employee with a diaper fetish, please stay far away from me. The Kroger employee. I live in a good, safe part of Houston, Texas, called Cypress. About 5 minutes up the road from my house is this huge, awesome, up-and-coming area. Basically, its own mini fancy town. It's 11 p.m., and I decided I desperately need some cookie dough. So I drive over to a gigantic Kroger. Walking through the aisles, I realize I am the only customer there, and all the employees are farther back stocking shelves. I grab what I need and head to the self-checkout, only thing that was open that late. I went to the very first station and glimpsed that there was a guy working the self-checkout. He's a younger Indian kid, but he's standing on the end by the computer. I have the hood on my jacket up, trying to avoid any and all conversations with another person, so I don't see him slip to my side. As I go to scan my Kroger's card, out of nowhere, the male employee is right up beside me. He tells me no, and scans his card so that I can get his discount. I'm thinking to myself that it was odd how quick he swooped up on me, but I thanked him and went to grab my grocery bag. Just as my fingertips touch the bag, he quickly snatches it and opens the armhole for me, instantly getting some bad weird vibes. Just want to get out of there into my car. I feel it's important to include that I have severe anxiety, throwing up from being around other people, and am heavily medicated to deter that. But those with severe anxiety know that no matter how many prescriptions you're on, it never truly goes away. And this is when it starts getting really bad, just horribly bad. I begin walking to the front door, and this guy has grabbed a hold of the side of me and squished me against him, and begins walking me to the front door, jamming me against the side. I'm so surprised and stricken with intense anxiety that I just lock up. I should have ran. I should have pushed him. I should have done so many things, but my body just completely shut down on me. He's talking to me and saying, "Oh, my love, my baby," just over and over again, while he pets my head and continues his forced cuddle on me. I realize we're just seconds away from being at the very front of the store. Nobody will be able to hear me scream for help. There are no customers. There is no rescue. Everyone is out of earshot, as it already is. I worked at a famous wing restaurant for 4 years, and was unnaturally used to customers and strangers asking to take a picture with me. So when this guy, who is gripping me tightly to his side, and has walked me completely to the front of the store, he asked to take a picture with me, I think if I say yes, he'll let me go, and I can beeline it out to the front door, and then get the fuck home. Instead, my half-assed escape plan has the opposite effect. He now has a hold of me by the neck, tucked into the bend of his elbow as he pulled my face as close as possible to his for these 2 pictures he took on his phone. He doesn't let me go for a single second, knowing I'm trying to leave him. He now has me in a tight bear hug, kissing all over my face, crooning my baby repeatedly. I can't scream, I can't run. I am utterly frozen in my anxieties. I try nervously laughing and pulling away, but I keep getting pulled back again and again, and then put into multiple bear hugs where I couldn't move my arms. After what felt like an eternity, he let go of me besides my hands. He's begging me to stay just 5 more minutes so we can be together when his shift ends. I'm pulling away saying, "No, I have to go home. I need to leave. I cannot stay here." Suddenly, he retreats back into the double doors for a second, and I take off to my car, not looking behind me, terrified he is chasing me. As I finally sit in my car, I'm wrapping my mind around the fact that an actual employee had just done this to me, and even more brazenly during his shift. I see him sprint out the double doors, frantically searching the parking lot for me. I sped off to the bar I worked at, and confided in my friends what just happened. I have seen and heard everything under the sun, and always thought I was invincible in a way, but this I sat and cried. I've only done that one other time. After a stalking story I previously posted, my friends and coworkers were telling me to call corporate, but I just wanted it to be over. He had pictures of my face, and if I get him fired, Lord knows what will happen. It wasn't until I realized that he could do this to someone else that I agreed to go to corporate. After back and forth emails describing the situation, sending them my receipt so they could pinpoint the time and their review of the tapes, I was notified that everything I said had been corroborated by the tapes. I was obviously trying to get away from the employee, and he was fired for assault. I more or less got a sorry along with a statement that he had been let go. People will still ask why I didn't punch him, fight, scream, etc. All I can say is that my body locked up. I had no control over myself, and completely froze in fear and shock. If you live it, you understand it, but if you don't, it can be looked as almost my fault. It was my fault. I didn't make it abundantly clear I wasn't interested. My fault I didn't run, and my fault for not fighting to free myself. All I can say is that mental health issues are a bitch and affects every fiber of your being. This experience taught me, and I hope will show you, that you are safe from nobody and nowhere. Please be aware of your surroundings, and please use that strength that I did not have in those moments to get out of harm's way. Creepy bank employee. Back for yet another creepy encounter. This occurred at my bank last year before I went studying abroad. I had to have an appointment with a bank employee to let them know I was going to be out of the country for an extended period of time. Some background information: this bank employee, we'll call him Dan, is someone I had known was creepy because of how he was inappropriate while helping my friend with her account transactions. I went in for a consultation with her because it was on the way of us going to the beach one day, and instead of acting professionally like most employees, Dan decided to flirt with us and try to convince us to purchase a Victoria's Secret credit card to maintain good credit, and how he would love to be there for that. Okay, dude, whatever you say. We just sort of laughed it off and were awkward. However, as the weeks went by, he continually tracked my friend's purchases and used her account information to get her phone number and text her that she should come in and invite her out, which is so not okay. Dan continued this until she eventually canceled her account with that bank and opened another one at Bank of America. He was never reported. She didn't want anything to do with it, and she blocked his number as well. Fast forward to last year, when I had to go in and meet with a bank employee. I walked through the door and lo and behold, it's creepy Dan. Great. I was alone, dumb, and even though there were plenty of bank employees around, we were in his cubicle, and since I was traveling to Europe and he was Spanish or something, he started asking me how to say inappropriate words in Spanish like balls, vagina, all that extremely creepy stuff. He asked for my email address, and I said that I did not have one. He asked for my phone, and I said I was studying abroad and have discontinued service. He then asked if I had plans that night, and if I'd ever open a VS credit card, because he'd really like to see my friend and I model something for him together. Ew. This guy had a kid, mentioned it even, and was mid-30s and a bank manager. Why me? I quickly hurried out and decided to report him, but eventually slipped my mind since I was leaving the country in 3 days. I actually went into the bank last week to find a lot of new staff and remodeling, and which had been done, and talked to one of the bank teller associates and asked if they had changed staff due to any reason. I mentioned that there were a couple of creepy dudes that were texting my friend and acting unprofessional and inappropriate. The bank teller said that he had them fired due to a complaint that a young girl was being harassed and texted and basically bank stalked by Dan. Thank God Dan's fired. I can only imagine how many girls he might have harassed or done even more to. Do your job. Don't make your customers feel uncomfortable or unsafe around you. And for the love of God, stop being creepy. My father's employee. So my dad runs a tree removal business out of our backyard and has been since I was a baby. When I was 5 years old, we moved to a house with almost 5 acres of property so he could park his work trucks, use wood chippers, and split and pile firewood comfortably. As a child, my brother and I loved playing near that, so my house stood a little ways down a long driveway, and the driveway continues a bit, and then there's a garage with a little apartment attached. At this time, a couple my parents were friends with rented this apartment, and this was about 50 yards away from the house. Fast forward to when I was 10 years old. My brother was 13 years old at the time. Also something to note, my dad's employees aren't exactly admirable people. Ex-addicts, thieves, I don't even know truthfully, but workers came and went. It's obviously not the best job in the whole world, to work in the hot summer months and have no work during the winter time. Anyways, my dad hired these 2 brothers who were in their early 20s. One of them, I remember, was very good looking, and his brother seemed dorky to me and wore glasses. 10-year-old me didn't pay much attention, obviously. All I wanted to do was climb the wood piles in my backyard. One fall day, after school, I remember my mom saying it was too chilly to play outside and to stay inside. I remember this so vividly. I literally remember what I was wearing and how I wanted my favorite stuffed animal near me as I colored. So I'm coloring. It's probably around 4:30, and my dad and his workers have just gotten back and are in the garage maybe smoking weed and having a beer together. Apparently a normal routine after a long day. My mom was reading or something right by me. My brother was a few houses down the street with his friend and his family, whom we've grown close with. All of a sudden, my dad comes running through the backyard and he's yelling, "Get out of the house! Grab my name and get out now! Run to the neighbor's house now!" Scared and confused, my mom jumps, and as do I, and I'm grateful my stuffed animal is close by. So I grab that and we run out the front door to the neighbors. It was chilly and my mom and I are barefoot. We fly up our long driveway, and my dad, who I thought was behind us, stalls at the end of our driveway on the phone yelling to someone. We get to the neighbors where my brother is, and we see the cops speed by to our house. We were all so confused. As it turned out, those brothers my dad hired were hiding something. The dorky one with glasses was very mentally ill and was off his meds. Him, his brother, and his family were too embarrassed to mention that, and apparently smoking weed and drinking alcohol was a trigger. That evening, when the employees smoked weed and had a beer after that job, they failed to notice that the guy went to his car to grab a rifle and start shooting all over the place, especially at the wood piles, which I would have been playing on normally, and into the garage with my dad's employees. He also shot at the cars and left bullet holes in many of the workers' and tenants' cars. The workers ran into the attached apartment to the garage with that couple living there. During this, my dad ran as fast as he could to the house to save my mom and me. So my dad's badass friend, who lived in the apartment, grabbed his hunter rifle and ran down to the garage area, while the employees hid in a shower. He saw the shooter jump in his car with his gun and was about to speed off. My dad's friend took his own rifle, broke the shooter's car window, and grabbed the gun out of his hand, but the shooter took off down our long driveway. Gotta say, I'm glad my mom and I weren't running on the driveway when he was speeding out at full speed. The cops caught him very quickly, just down the street. Opposite end of the street in where we hid. He was arrested, and my parents didn't press charges since no one was hurt. They were more upset that this all could have been avoided had someone mentioned he was mentally ill. My dad doesn't run background checks, just will pay whoever is willing and needed cash, to be honest. In reality, shady, I'm well aware. Also, something I just literally learned today. The day prior to the shooting, my brother had a weird encounter with the shooter. He was at a gas station with our neighbor, a friend of his, in the same family's house we hid at the next day. My dad's worker pulled up and offered them a ride home, literally a 3-minute car ride, and they agreed, because they know and recognized him. They note that he's strangely wearing black nail polish, and his hoodie is up, which wasn't normal of him. They thought nothing of it. We think now was maybe it had to do with something like being off his meds, or just a coincidence, who knows. I am 25 years old now, and remember the experience vividly. I hope I never hear my dad's voice with that tone ever again. It was so scary. I still do not know how I didn't hear the gunshots, though. My mom believed, because we were very close to a gun range. We have grown accustomed to that sound nearby. So, my dad's ex-employee, who shot multiple times at my home, let's not meet ever again, please. My lovable moron dog is smarter than I am. Recently out of a long-term relationship, I just sold my house and moved back in with my parents for a month or two, until I could find a suitable place to live with my dog. My parents were living on a rural property, totally surrounded by trees, and with no other houses in sight or earshot. It was beautiful, and my crazy, loving, and honestly pretty stupid bull terrier dog loved the extra space, and scoring a supersized dinner when my mom fed him. My parents also traveled often, so it was pretty common that my dog and I would have the house to ourselves. One of these times, I came home to find an unmarked white UTE parked across my driveway. The driveway was off a dirt road that was hardly wide enough to fit 2 cars passing each other, and my assumption was that somebody was lost or taking a phone call, and I just pulled off to the side for a minute. In clear sight, I came up behind the car, blocking my way, and turned on my indicator, so they would know I was trying to get up the driveway. I waited like that for at least a few minutes, making sure they could see me, and I wasn't in their blind spot or anything like that. Not wanting to be rude, I jumped out of my car and apologetically approached the driver's side of the UTE. Inside was a man in his 30s, who made it look like he was taking a phone call, apologized for blocking my way, and then introduced himself as a council contractor who basically assessed when trees were growing too close to power lines. He said that he needed to assess the area near my house, and asked if it would be okay for him to follow me up the driveway. And of course, being naive and always assuming the best in people, I said, yes. We reached my house, and we parked both cars, jumped out, and I pointed him in the right direction. He immediately tried a little too hard to make conversation with me, and not wanting to be rude, I chatted away. As we talked, I tried to be polite, but made excuses to wrap up the conversation a few times over, to which he just continued, despite of I was kind of just assuming that he was trying to hit on me in some awkward kind of way. He was, in all honesty, reasonably attractive, and quite frankly, looked normal enough. I was starting to feel uncomfortable when he kept making jokes about my work attire, mentioning that I was wearing high heels more than a couple times, even going as far as to joke that they would be hard to walk/run in. Have you ever been chatting away to someone and then had this sinking feeling where you no longer feel safe with them? I literally felt like I had told this guy my life story. I had outright told him where I went on my year 10 science camp. He knew I lived alone, knew what I did for work, and a whole heap of other stuff that was either innocent or seemed relevant to his job when it was first asked, but now seemed to be invasive. I told him that I need to go inside to let my dog to go use the toilet, since he had what he needed to wrap up things outside anyways. I went around to the back of the house, let myself inside, grabbed my dog, and then for the first time since living there, went and locked every single door in the house. We always left the doors unlocked, even at nighttime, but I just felt in my gut that I wasn't safe. I took my dog with me upstairs and sat by a hidden window overlooking the yard in the driveway. My dog, who on a usual day would probably try and befriend somebody robbing the house, was as on edge as I was. He wouldn't leave my side and stared intently out the window, refusing to sit or relax. From where we sat, we watched the man as he headed back towards his car. He seemed to sit in the car for forever, making notes or filling out paperwork as well. Rather than leaving, he spent even longer wandering around the front and side of the house. Meanwhile, I was trying to quiet my dog, who had started deeply growling. The man sat in his idling car for more than 10 minutes, and then finally left. I was torn between the cold dread I had felt and my need to be polite, since nothing had actually happened, despite the feelings in which I was feeling at the moment. I'm sure he didn't have anything sinister in mind, and I was just overreacting. Maybe he hoped that I would come back out and I would talk to him, but I had made it pretty clear that I was very busy, and even said goodbye to him, not "I'll be back in a minute." From that day, I continued to lock the doors, but became paranoid and started to jump every time my dog growled, or I heard a rustle in the bushes outside. My dog was on edge on most of the nights, but I figured that he was just picking up on my anxiety. I started to notice things not seeming right. I swear, a pair of my dad's shoes disappeared, and things outside often seemed out of place, to be honest. We had a pump for the hot water that would occasionally turn off, meaning that you had to run outside and turn it back on. It had only happened to me once before, but suddenly started to happen almost every single night, nightly, when I showered. So yeah, cold showers for me, no way was I going outside alone. More than once over the next few weeks, while I was laying in bed reading, a fuse would blow out, and the lights would all go out. But I stayed inside until morning. Honestly, we were in the bush, and there were bush rats in the roof, so who knows why it could have been happening. I started dating a new guy, and on nights he came over, my dog would be calm and normal, playful self. But on nights I was alone, he would follow me like a shadow, often growling and sitting protectively at the front door while I cooked dinner. It was probably all in my head, but I've never once seen my dog act that particular way, and I've never felt in my gut the way I felt that day. It also made me unsettled that the guy had said that he would be booking in people to come and clear around the power lines in the next week or so, but nobody ever came, and I couldn't find anything on the company he said he was from when I tried to Google it online. He didn't have a business card to give me either. Soon after this, my parents came home from their trip and I moved out. I might have mentioned it to them, but honestly, I think they would have thought I was crazy or something. Plus, they moved houses soon afterwards anyways. I live with my dog and my partner in a totally different area and never had any more problems. I never felt unsafe or had my dog act protectively. Even if it was all in my head, I am glad I listened to my gut and stayed safe and cautious. So, sorry, Powerline Man. You think I blew you off or was rude to you. But either way, let's not meet again. The crazed employee. So back when I was in my teens to my mid-20s, I worked in a fast food restaurant. There was an employee we had, Jen, that was there for years. Jen had a boyfriend that I generally got along with that also worked with us for a time. He apparently was a tad violent and has a criminal history. My sister Sarah also worked there at the time, as well as my then wife Sarah and her sister Cam. Cam was underage at the time, and one of the requirements was if there was an employee under 18 years old, a manager was required to stay with them until their ride came. Well, this manager Jen and her boyfriend decided they were going to leave since they want to go buy beer at a place near their house that closed at 11. It was around 10:30-ish at the time, so they up and left my sister-in-law there alone, outside in a dark parking lot. Cam called us and told us what happened, and that she was worried about being left alone. We only lived a few minutes away, so we went and stayed with her until her mother came to get her. We told my boss this, and she was written up for doing that. Now, Jen and my sister didn't get along, and were always at odds. I can't recall what exactly happened, but it got to the point that my sister had to go to a district manager because she was afraid of her and her felon boyfriend. Him and my general manager sat her down and let her go for all the stuff that was going on with her. He had in a list apparently of all recent complaints about her from other employees and customers. They were going to let her go graciously, as we live in an 8C will states, and let her collect unemployment. Well, Jen instead went on a rampage, started screaming and cursing at the two of them, to the point that I just told her to leave. Jen blamed my sister and I for her termination. Well, one day after that, she got fired. She was waiting in the parking lot in her car with her boyfriend driving. They were following us, and they tried driving us off of the road. We had to speed down alleys and go through red lights to try and not get hit for how close they were following. When we were down these side roads, they were screaming and cursing at us. The only way we got away was to drive to the police station and go inside. And they left.